That song is like an earworm in my brain that I cannot
It's
get
like
out.
crack for the ear holes.
Ear crack.
You sniff, you put it down on a mirror and you just listen to it.
And you get real energetic. We should stop. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Lore Dump.
Okay.
This is an intervention. You're doing too much ear crack.
Yeah, I'm sucking it all up through my ear holes.
It's affecting those who love you.
I can barely hear anything anymore.
Okay. Hey, we're doing Lore Dump, everybody. It's me, Josh, a.k.a. the Governor, who does
so uncomfortable.
things and stuff.
I don't know why you're so...
I'm so awkward.
Oh, I thought you were cool. Hey, this is Mr. Shikadans, a.k.a. the Governess, a.k.a. someone who does a lot of ear candy, a.k.a. Sean.
It's not...
A.k.a. I'm not telling you. A.k.a. Yeah, that's it.
Your most popular title is
Yeah, that's the one I went by in high school.
I was going to say, before I was so rudely interrupted by your joke,
AKA the host of the Stitch Fix podcast.
Oh, Stitch Fix. Well, hey, wow, you did it. I was going to say that we rarely commit to a bit for more than a few episodes, but you've been really sticking to the Governess and the Stitch Fix bit
That one comes and goes.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. I'm genuinely usually
someone out
forget
there
what we said last time. Yeah, even if it was shot 20 minutes ago.
No, I only forget the actual topic we were talking about. What's up, Joshua? What do you got? What do you got going on?
That was actually almost a good segue. Our topic this week, Sean, is going to be the infamous elf, who we defined as an emperor, who got yeeted to the other side. Yes, the elf on the shelf. Emperor Elf on the Shelf. But before we get into that really good topic,
Emperor Elfinshelf?
Can we? I think.
Before we get to that topic,
we've just named this character, by the way, but we'll get there later. First, we need to talk about another part of this show that we do later on is that we answer community questions, Sean. And if our community wanted to ask us questions, how would they do it?
Well, I don't know how they would do it because I would never tell them how to live their life or dictate their actions in any way. But if I wanted to do it, I would go to loredumpquestions@gmail.com and submit a little email. If I couldn't do that, then my backup would be to go to our socials on Instagram and Twitter @the Lore Dump and just send us a juicy little tidbit there. Those would be my two options.
The juiciest. And man, do we get some good questions from our community members. They're the best.
Yes.
If you send us questions, we write you into our will.
It's very long.
It's a long, long will. So please do send us questions so you can get in on our worldly belongings when we both pass. This is terrible.
You're just going to get like $5. I'm poor.
Oh my God. Okay, so with all that said and done, and with them eagerly writing questions to you and I, it's time to get into the show proper. So we're gonna go.
Oh wait, we already did that.
No, we did that bit. We're gonna talk about Emperor Elfinshelf, who has canonically just been named Emperor Elfinshelf.
Is it Elfinshelf or is it Elfinshelf?
I think it's Elfinshelf.
Emperor Enshelf.
And yes, Enshelf, and it's just N''shelf.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's perfect.
Because elven names can never be spelled properly.
Yeah, no, they've already got to have tildes or things in them. They got to be out there. Got to be
Elfinshelf. I love that.
That's a really good name.
It's been a while since we just did a big meaty joke, except for 2 episodes ago, and last episode a little bit before all of that. Okay.
Oh mind. Yeah, What episode is this? This is episode 12.
This is 12
episodes.
All 12 episodes.
Wow, 12. Happy anniversary, sweetie. Anyway,
you said that in 10.
Shh, it's always
is it every 2 now?
It's always our anniversary.
This is true. It's the same day, I guess. Every day is the same day.
Every day we just live the same. It's like we're really getting derailed on this podcast today.
We've been doing this for like 5 minutes.
Wow, look at that time. Okay, so Emperor Elfinshelf. This was an elf that came around in the early eras of the elves, and we have canonically established that on the continent there was very little. It was fairly barren, and the elves persisted off of essentially their direct arcane connection to the planet of Toreg until the gods separated into their own little shards and then began messing with it. At which point the elves had already kind of claimed possession to this planet. They felt like they were the rightful owners. And society began to develop. The elves began to use the resources that were being placed on the planet to do things. And Emperor Elfinshelf comes into place sometime around then, uniting the elven cities and taking control, not only the elven cities, 3 elven nations, the Wood Elves, and the elves that dwelt in the Fissure, who would eventually become the precursors to the Drow. But at that time, they're all one people solidified under Emperor Elfinshelf.
Yes.
And this is all pre-yeeting to the other side.
Pre-yeet. Yes, this is pre-yeet Elfinshelf.
Did our timeline, did we just establish that it's PY and AY?
And post-yeet?
Yes. Pre-yeet.
That's the Elfin calendar.
Yeet. The Elfin calendar is, okay, yeet.
The Elfin calendar is PY and
AY after yeet.
AY. Yeah, after yeet and pre-yeet.
Yeah. Or post. Yeah, because it couldn't be PY.
Before yeet and post-yeet. BY and PY?
BY, PY? Yeah. Sure. Let's do it. Oh my god, that's amazing. That's so good. Or it could just be, what if they were both PY and it was pre-yeet and post-yeet?
Can we do that instead? That's better, I think.
That's so confusing.
Post-Y and pre-Y.
Okay. So it's PY and PY. You've got PY negatives and PY positives. Post-yeet and pre-yeet.
And they won't tell you which one's which.
Nope. So.
Interesting.
Our elfin emperor is sitting here. What does he look like?
An elf.
Good. Good.
What am I, a sketch artist?
Well done.
He's got big eyes, big weird like anime eyes, but everyone else's are normal. So they thought he was magic. They thought he was super special. They thought he was the protagonist. He's the elven protagonist. Oh my god, what if he's just Naruto?
Fighting dreamer.
No, he becomes Hokage. That's his dream.
His dream is to become Hokage?
Believe it. Believe it. Believe it, and they chuck him through the portal and he gets trapped over there.
Okay. So the lore here is that there is an elf with big eyes.
You made me do this. What does he look like to you?
No. I like hearing your takes. I like asking you what this character looks like because you hate elves.
He's got big eyes. He's got dull ears. He's got human ears.
This is pre-humans.
This is pre-humans. He's also tall.
Okay.
Yeah, annoyingly so.
He's annoyingly tall.
He's like 6.5 feet tall.
His ears aren't quite human-esque, but they are a little shorter, and he's got these big buggy eyes. So he's not a particularly attractive elf.
No, he's gross.
Okay.
You wouldn't want to be acquainted with this emperor.
Okay. How did he become emperor?
He did a bunch of war. No.
I like how every time I ask you a question about a city, you say, they did a bunch of war.
It was a bunch of war. No, wait, hold on. Just some war.
Yeah, bit of war. Some war.
I think he was, there was a contest.
Contest. Was it, we've established these elves as like early philosophers.
Mm-hmm.
Was it like, was he a really good philosopher? Was he good at thought puzzles? Was it a puzzle thing?
Yeah, they had a logic off. Yeah, and then he cut the Gordian knot in half, and he was like, "See, your knot is even strong as my sword is."
Okay, I like it a lot.
Yeah, Gordian knot. That was a good joke.
It was really good. 10 out of 10.
Thank you.
Again. So he cut the knot in half, and they were like, "Oh my god, this philosophy is so good. You should be emperor."
No, I think it was a myriad of different things because they're elves. They're not stupid.
Yeah, they're pretty.
So
clever.
They knew that it needed to be strong of mind, strong of character, strong of body, strong of muscles. He's got to have those muscles. So they had this contest that was like everything. You had to be the best at everything in order to even get close.
Okay,
and
I like
he
that.
was the best of everything. He was the smartest, coolest, most liked, best warrior that they had. Okay. And that is why they chose him as first emperor.
He was Aragorn.
He was, yeah.
Not
what?
Aragorn, Jesus, Legolas. What is wrong with me?
What?
He was like super... So, I'm sorry. We established him as ugly, but now he's hot? Can I get context on that?
You don't need to be hot to be liked, Josh. What's wrong with you?
You said he best looking. You said most attractive.
I don't think I said best looking. I said he had the best muscles.
Oh, okay. Got it. So he's real muscly. I said
best muscles, big fucking eyes. They were like, oh, he's so weird.
He's weird.
But then he did everything real cool, and they were like, oh, but he's cool. I like him.
Got it. I understand now. I'm on the same page. It took me a minute. I'm sorry for being slow.
Yeah, he was everything but the most attractive.
Okay. And...
Because that's weird. That's dumb.
Yeah. Who needs to be... You know...
There are a lot of cool people in history that were fucking uggos.
Yeah. Like Abraham Lincoln.
Abraham Lincoln was not a looker.
He
did some great, amazing stuff for the country, but he was a big uggo, 6 foot ugly.
Yeah, gangly dude with a funny chin, and he was just a mess. Anyway, okay. So we've got... He was not a great looking dude, but he was a very talented dude. And... aesthetics are obviously, that's very superficial anyway and completely dependent upon taste, so
yes,
we don't get to determine who looks like what, but
of course
by our own standards he didn't seem like a particularly attractive man.
No, he's got fish eyes. Gross.
Yes. So based on that, they make him the emperor. Now they already established this empirical government, the elves. Like, was that an agreed upon thing that they had figured out, and then the competition was just after the fact to pick somebody?
What if the contest was between the 4 cities, and they each sent their best from those 4 cities?
The 3 cities, the Wood Elves and the Fisher. So there's 5.
I for some reason in my head, the Fisher has a city in it. Oh. So you're right, the 5
that makes sense. Okay, yeah, no, there can be a city in the Fisher. Fuck yeah.
Yeah, okay. So there's 5 came together.
The 5 factions of Elf came together and put up their bestest. They had an Elf America pageant where they did this.
They had the Elf Factor.
The Elf Factor. Yes, they had the Elf Factor. It's actually pretty good. The Elf Factor. Okay, so they had the Elf Factor, and he rose to the top and was made the leader.
Yes.
How long did he govern for?
How old was he when he won the contest? Let's decide that first.
So they have a lifespan of about 700 years or so, longer if they're particularly talented in magic.
He was. We established that.
So maybe...
What if he was like 250?
250 when he won the contest?
Yeah.
And he had at least a couple 100 years in power before he was yeeted.
So he was about 437 years old when he got yeeted.
I love how specific that is. 437 years old is where PY and PY break.
Yes, where the 2 PYs diverge in the woods. And I took the one less traveled by.
Okay.
See, I knew some Chaucer.
Well done, sir.
That was not Chaucer. So I'm pretty sure it was Frost. It was Charles Dickens.
You're just yelling authors at me.
I'm just saying different names until you say something else.
Okay. So he got he got into power. Did he do anything? Well, he obviously ostracized a bunch of people because then the faction split afterwards.
He was 100% high elf.
Yes.
That's just like guaranteed factual.
But he pissed off a lot of the elven factions because that's at the end of his reign, the Drow were like, I'm outie, or the precursors to the Drow, like, I'm outie. And the 3 nations split. They're like, we're done. No empire.
What if there was bad blood because most of the people who got to decide who won were high elf?
Yeah, that makes sense. Which is
there
why
was some sort of scrutiny.
The politics are a little better in the three high elf nations as opposed to the Wood Elves and the Fisher elves.
Yeah.
Okay.
That makes more sense. That's why there's that bad blood there.
Yeah. Now we got bad blood. Okay.
Don't.
So we've got this bad blood. We've got him established as. Are there any particular character traits we want to give this guy?
I don't know. What if he's like really into
Jazz?
Yes. He's really into jazz. He's a huge jazz aficionado.
And not like
Can't
good
get enough of
jazz,
it.
like bad jazz.
He's a amateur scatting man.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah.
Very irritating.
Yeah, that was his talent portion of the show. He did the scatting man.
Is it a barber quartet?
He was also good at like chess games and war games and intellectual games.
Mm-hmm.
So he was able to out manipulate and politic other people.
Yeah. Works for me.
Yeah.
Okay. Did he like to host? Ooh. So maybe after the first elf factor, he kept hosting elf factors just to lord his intellect over the other factions. And that's where a lot of that bad blood comes from. It was no longer a matter of determining who was the leader. He just wanted to be like, hey, I'm smarter than you. And he would drag noble houses into these competitions with him, using his power.
And if he was ever threatened by an individual from another city or state, he would just, cheat.
Just cheat.
At a certain point.
Or have them assassinated.
Or someone else would cheat on his behalf to keep him in power.
Right. He's got like pretty powerful folks working behind him.
Yeah. He's got the entourage.
Love an entourage.
Yes.
Okay. So, what's the catalyst for the yeeting? Is it an outcome of his behaviors? Is it an accident? Is it somebody getting back at him? Was there a conspiracy theory?
I think there was a conspiracy theory, but from his own people.
The other high elves from his specific nation.
Yes. At a certain point, probably around 337, was it? 437?
437 is when you had him.
Yeah. There was the younger generation thought it was their turn.
Okay.
Maybe that's what it was.
Where did they figure out how did they figure out how to yeet him? Was it accidental? I
think they were trying to do something else or like send him somewhere else.
Yeah.
But they accidentally tapped into the other side.
It was the first instance of banishment.
Or maybe it was random. Maybe they weren't doing it. Maybe like they were about to murder him and then a portal opened and he jumped into it. He's like, oh, this will save me. And then he jumped into it and he was stuck there.
I actually building upon that. He's cornered. He's about to be killed by this younger generation. He casts what is the spell Banish does not exist yet. He attempts to cast that, but fails miserably, and in doing so, permanently, quote unquote, banishes himself to the other side.
I like that. And a last ditch effort to save himself.
Yeah. And then the other elves were like, what the hell just happened? And a few people began theorizing and speculating into it, and began eventually over tens of thousands of years actually figured out like how to do banishment and extraplanar stuff. They still don't know where it goes, the other side, but that's how they figured out how to do it. And every once in a while the elf just sees somebody pop in there for 1 minute and then pop out.
What if because it wasn't an exact banishment?
Yeah, it's definitely
they couldn't replicate the banishment spell because it was accidentally a way to summon one of the rifts that opened to this portal.
And he stepped into
plane.
it.
He accidentally summoned like one of those rifts. Like, how they randomly pop up from time to time because the chick is just poking through.
Thrashing around, yeah.
Yeah, but he found a way to like conjure one of those openings.
I mean, we could just do the chicken was thrashing around and that very moment.
Big beak just comes through nowhere, rips him through into this.
All right.
We'll take it.
Yeah. history is not certain. Let's do
Yes.
that. I love doing in my world alternate renditions of history where there's two different variants depending on who you
But
talk
he
to.
would for sure know.
He knows. No one
Yeah,
else does.
he knows the truth, and whenever, if ever your NPCs meet him, he would know.
Yeah. Like the guys who saw him seem to think half of them, or who were attacking him seem to think half of them seem to think that he yeeted himself. The other half think that a giant chicken head ripped through time and space and then he stepped through the portal.
Pretty much. I think that's good.
Okay,
like
beautiful. 10 out of 10, fantastic. I mastered it.
9 out of 10.
So then he was there
That
for a
was
very
10 out
long
of 10.
time. Very long time.
Longer than elves should live.
Yes, because he's in
But
stasis.
also no time at all.
Yeah, both the blink of an eye and an eternity at the same time.
God, that sounds like a nightmare.
There's also a part of him that, even though he stepped out of that somehow, which I'm sure we'll have to establish, back into the waking world now, he's also at the same time still in the world because time doesn't work that way. Because once he exists in this alternate universe, he exists perpetually because he exists there for eternity, but also not.
Not only that, he exists there alongside everything that has ever come in and out of this dimension.
Mm-hmm. So there is a
Interesting.
duality to him. I think even after, and maybe this is what makes him such a threat, even though he's come back, there is a part of him and him as a whole also still back in the other side. And they are somehow connected because the other side exists out of time.
I like that.
That's really metaphysics
deep.
trippy. Yeah.
That's mind shattering.
Yeah. And he's able to do things that are very, very weird in regards to his powers. Now that he's back in a functioning timeline, I think he doesn't seem to age at all.
So he doesn't age?
I think, yeah, he might be no longer long-lived, but in fact eternal.
So, yeah, if he was killed in this plane of existence in the current day, that other form of him would still exist.
Yeah, he can't die.
But would have no knowledge of that death.
Yeah.
Or do they know
No, I
about
think
each
he
other?
does. I think it's like a window as well. I think the part of him in this world is more of a shadow of himself. To us, to those in the world, he seems fully functioning, fully regional. But to the person in this world, he feels like just a part, a fraction, a shadow of himself. And the
You
rest
really
of
have to
himself.
split yourself in half to be able to go out of that dimension. You have to shadow your own being.
Yes, like the gods did.
Wow. Very interesting.
But there's still a direct line, a direct connection between the two. Which also gives, if you want to make him the BBEG, you can just throw him back. The players kill him, straight out kill him. Hell, that would be really cool. Could you imagine if you killed the BBEG in like your 10th session, and then you like moved on to the next thing, and then the guy showed back up? The guy showed back up and then showed back up again. Like that would be so... That'd be really neat. That'd be interesting. They're interesting mechanics to play with, I think.
I'd be fucking annoyed. Why would you stay dead?
Good dude. Oh, it's almost like he's a lich.
Yeah. Now, could the version of him back in the other side, could that take advantage of that knowledge? It could send multiple versions of itself to the same period of time.
I think it's incredibly difficult to do.
Yeah. But in theory, he could.
Yeah, in theory.
If
he got
he
desperate
realized,
enough.
like he dies in that time period, comes back here, he's like, oh, hang on a second, and just starts like trying to force himself over there multiple times.
Yeah.
Sort of like literally himself throughout time.
Yeah. I like that. Okay, let's consider our own lore. So we said that the chicken forced itself in its entirety over to the other side, and that's why it can't get out. Because it is very hard to get out.
Well, because it's so large.
Yeah, because it's such big. But what if... This is about to get creepy. This is very Warhammer 40k-esque. This is very Imperial Throne stasis. What if when the Emperor accidentally yeeted himself... Ooh, this is good. This is good. What if when the Emperor accidentally yeeted himself at the YP juncture into the other side, he left a husk of himself that doesn't seem to die sitting on the throne? And the elves, at least of that nation, elected to maintain it. And that is the catalyst to getting back here. There is this basically like husk of the original emperor that's partially alive, like it breathes and doesn't seem to age or decay, that has been sitting on the throne in that one nation for tens of thousands of years. And then eventually the emperor that was on the other side figures out how to reconnect with that self, and it comes back to life.
So that would mean that there's also a giant chicken still on this side that is just a husk.
I don't think so. The reason that I'm saying that is because the chicken sent itself in entirety, which is why it can't come back, period. The Emperor never sent himself in entirety, which is why he can come back.
Okay. Well, we did make it canonical that all of the nations split.
Yes, which they still did. When he became a husk, most of them were like, why would we let this person rule? But one of them was like, this is still the Emperor. He's still there. And they are led essentially by a group. Ooh, this gets really deep. That nation, there is a little conspiracy group who pretends to hear the voice of the Emperor. This is very Warhammer 40k. They say that the Emperor still talks to them, and they make decisions for that nation, saying that they're able to commune with the dead Emperor. And that's the nation's best kept secret. They pass that around, and select few in that inner circle know that the Emperor doesn't say anything. Until one day he did come back.
So
and assumed control.
I love it, and I love where it's going. The guy who gets shunted over to the other side needs to be a warlock patron.
Yes.
It needs to be like,
and wants you to go get his corpse.
He's like, hey, this is weird. I'm gonna give you magic. I figured out how to do all this stuff because this place is crazy. But I need something from you. You need to go literally rip this place to the ground because they're using me as a puppet, and I'm not okay with that.
Yeah. You need to like get my husk body that just doesn't decay. It just sits there on this throne, empty and vacant, but tied to me. I need you to fucking deal with it. And then eventually he comes back, and now you've got a warlock patron stomping around in your universe again. Like that's
almost like a Mordenkainen level motherfucker.
Mm-hmm.
Comes over here with these dimensional secrets and is like, hey, guess what, guys? Fuck you, actually.
I'm back.
Yeah.
And he immediately wrenches control of that nation. But now he's got warlocks that serve him as well, scattered across the planet.
Yeah.
That's good lore, dude.
This is good stuff. I like that.
He wrenches power back from that cabal that was pretending to speak for him, but kills most of them. They go into hiding, and now there is mass political discourse and intrigue and disarray.
That's a whole campaign.
That is a whole campaign.
But starting from the side that your warlock started this whole thing.
Yeah.
Like your party's warlock made this guy come back, and then that's a whole problem.
Yep. And you could just drop them in that point in time.
Yeah.
Or you could use it as, okay, there are whisperings now in the pillars back on the other continent that the elves are at war with each other, and that some powerful historical figure has returned. And it's very ominous and frightening to everybody. And they're like, what is this? And this power seems to have, this entity has these weird eldritch, far-seeing abilities.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's good.
I like that.
Oh. Literally, and we've said steel stuff before. The concept of a husk being left behind, that is the Emperor of Mankind in Warhammer 40k. He exists psychically on another plane and left his body behind, is the long and short of it. And a cabal of people begin speaking for him on his behalf, and use him as this like god figure to rule for tens of thousands of years. And then he hasn't returned yet, but there's a whole bunch of canon around it. Like that's literally, it's pulled quite closely from that. Again, with our own flair and additions to it, but
interesting.
Yeah.
I also like to think that because he's on the plane with this chicken, and he's given so much time to like access all of this stuff because he is so smart, he finds a way to tap into the chicken.
Yeah, that's bad. That's not good.
Yeah. Maybe he plans to bring it back and sort of run it around on the people that fucked with him.
Once he gets back, yeah, he's like, you know what? I know secrets. Oh my god, he knows secrets that the gods don't know.
Mm-hmm. That they forgot.
That they have forgotten. And he says, the elves now are the truest masters of this planet, and I know how to make it so.
Yeah. Ooh, that's good.
And then there are other factions of elves that still completely reject that. There are 2 other high elf nations and a wood elf nation and the drow at this point who are like, fuck off, and have said that since he was ripped from his body and sent into the far beyond. He comes back. So you can still have, it's not like, there's just bad elves. There's good elves and bad elves, and you could play on either side of it.
That's really good.
That's so good.
I like this. This is good.
And even though he's come back to his body now, he's still persisting outside. Like we established earlier, there's still a part of him on the other side establishing that link. Like there's a connection there.
Mm-hmm.
It is our first transcendent character other than the dragons. It is our first mortal that has become a god, essentially, without becoming a god.
Yes, but still a very trapped one.
Yes, very, like there's restrictions because otherwise that would be very problematic.
Yeah.
But this is our first like transcendent deity, which I like. Those are always good. You know what I mean? Like,
mm-hmm.
Ooh, that's spicy. All right, what else do we need?
We need
Emperor Elfinshelf.
I mean, yeah. God, that's such a weird name.
Such a badass character, and he's Dr.
But he is just sitting on a shelf and watching.
He was an elf on a shelf, really.
A cosmic shelf.
Yeah.
He's an elf on a cosmic shelf.
I like how we stumbled backwards into that meme.
Well, yeah. Why would we ever do it any other way on this show?
Go team.
We start with a meme and then we find a way to make it work. Lore dump.
Lore dump. Okay.
Now, that emperor is not ruling over the other nations.
Correct.
The other elven societies.
Yeah. In fact, it's that's where you establish factions that the DM can use in your source, in your setting, right? So you can say, if you are interested in the elves, these opportunities exist, right? Like this is generally in conflict with this group, and this group is generally in conflict with this group. There's potential for you to decide, right?
I like it.
So
I think it's good.
The pillars tend to perceive the Elven continent as one holistic group because of the historic abuse that came from them. But amongst the elves, there are many factions and nations rubbing up against each other.
It also makes more sense that those people were like, oh yeah, the king, oh yeah, he definitely wants that money. So if you can go ahead and
send it back.
Bring that on back here. And they're like, fuck you and your puppet master.
Yeah. You stupid dead king.
We got plenty of good dwarven kings.
Wait. So maybe his original name is Emperor Elfinshelf, but over tens of thousands of years, he just came to be known as the Dead King.
That's like a slanderous name for him, though.
Okay, yeah.
That's not what he does. That's not what the people who run that society want to call him.
Right.
That's what the other people call him.
Everyone
just
calls
a corpse.
him the Dead King. Yeah.
It's a corpse on a throne.
Yeah.
That's good.
Oof. Oh. Ugh. So juicy. So much potential.
So scary. Ooh, so dead. He's a dead zombie king. Oh no.
In my mind, I painted this picture of like players who make it, like, or are starting in this elven world or working with the Cabal or trying to free this warlock patron, like walk into this throne room and it is just this weird elf corpse on this giant throne with these like hooded cloaked figures standing around it, and it's all poorly lit and very like atmospheric. Oh,
it's so good.
All right, I'm pretty happy with that. What else do we need? Anything else?
I think that's good for him.
I agree.
What would that mean for us then, Joshua? If we're all done with that.
Well, if we're all done with the lore thing, do you know what time it is?
I asked you.
It's question time.
Oh my god, I never would have thought about that. I was going to give the people the socials and then say bye. It's question time?
Doobadoo-boo. No, I'm kidding. It is question time.
You triggered me with that song. I thought we were ending.
Yeah, I pressed stop on the recording instinctively. Yes, we have a question. And we have a really good question today. I mean, we have a really good question every week.
Every week.
But this week's question is from a good friend of ours and an amazing artist and friend of Twee, which is where Sean and I spend a lot of time. The Amazing Welcome Inn, where our friends and us played some D&D. This question comes from Tanner, a.k.a. Mythalidor.
Tanner.
Yeah, our boy, the artist. And Tanner asks Sean, how do you guys go about creating homebrew dungeons and filling those dungeons with loot that would be fitting for the party level?
Well, first, Mythalidor is absolutely a wizard we have to put in this world somewhere. I think that name's rad as hell.
Oh, fuck yeah.
That's cool. That's cool.
We have to remember that Mythalidor belongs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, the question was about dungeons and items.
How do you go about creating homebrew dungeons and filling those dungeons with loot? And I will say, full disclosure, there will likely be an episode where we literally make a dungeon. Right? Because that's a whole episode or two. But
just getting the idea for a dungeon is one episode.
Yeah. And then
actually making it out is probably like 2 or 3.
Yeah. Traps and rooms and like that's a whole thing.
Yeah.
But we're still building the world, so we're not there yet. But a basic, like, how do you kick off creating a dungeon, Sean?
Well, dungeons have to exist for a reason. Number one, there has to be some sort of purpose to them. It can't just be you find a cave, there's a bunch of twisty, turny places, and there's some stuff in there you need. Or don't need. There's just stuff in there. And those can happen and be interesting, but if your party's going to spend their time going into one, it should have some sort of story or lore to it that makes it important.
100% agree.
Good. Otherwise, I'd punch you.
I think to build upon it, Jesus.
I show you my muscles.
Oh, you're so strong. Look at those.
There goes my shirt. I've ripped it off with my bare hands.
Oh my gosh, Bruce Banner. Stop.
Who put these bare hands here? Sorry.
So to build upon what Sean said too, like, I think a lot of people immediately think dungeon and they think like it's this catacomb under the ground, blah 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 blah. That's not the case. That's not a dungeon. A dungeon is a set map with a series of encounters built into it with like an end goal. But a dungeon can really be so much more. Like, it could be a series of pathways up in the air that are open-faced, but they're their only way of traversing this, like, large open space, right? Like, dungeons are really, like, again, we fall into the, when you say dungeons, you envision an actual dungeon, but in D&D, a dungeon is a mapped-out area for the players to really put their skills to the test.
Like the interior of a building could be a dungeon.
Mm-hmm.
A series of sunken ships along a coastline could be a dungeon. There could be, like, I don't know, a trail up a mountain. Technically outside could be considered a dungeon. Yeah. It's just a series of obstacles you have to get through.
Yeah. So dungeons are great. So that's but that really is the answer. Like, how do you kick off dungeon crafting? Have a reason for it.
Yeah. Usually it's something that the party has to either retrieve or reach by a certain time. You put it like the bottom of the dungeon, like the item that they're looking for, or like the ritual they're trying to stop, or whatever the fuck. It's got to be at the end. There can be other like side things to sort of distract them, or maybe have a little bit of fun with, or just challenge them a little bit. Like traps, or like puzzle rooms, or like vaults or something filled with monsters that they have to fight out once they get inside. You know.
I personally really like my dungeons to live and breathe. So I really like when my dungeons are a fortress or something, and the goal is to scout for the players or to find a specific target and get them out of there. Like those are a lot of like having a captive deep in a fortress that they have to go and retrieve. Like I like those sorts of things because then there's guard routes, there's like living areas, there's different things for the players to engage with as well. So I really like dungeons to do that sort of thing. I also like my dungeons at multiple pathways really give the players agency with dungeons. Yeah. Shouldn't be a straight line.
Nah. Straight lines are boring.
Yeah.
Straight lines take away that sort of that air of mystery and choice.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed 100%.
Yeah.
And how, Sean, the second part of the question is, and how do you fill those dungeons with loot that would be fitting for the party level? And we've kind of talked about gearing the party before a little bit. So all of that still stands.
So there's like a table in the DMG that's like the encounter level that you are looking for. Like there's a certain range of encounter levels. Then you roll on that table to determine what your party gets from that encounter. That is, I feel, a pretty good way to do it, especially if you do it beforehand and sort of tailor the way that table rolls to your actual party. Like if there's a very good cleric item, but your party doesn't have a cleric, then they're probably going to die anyway, so I give it to them.
You're in a particularly like
okay,
let them die mood.
No.
I agree with that, and it does go back to our initial conversation, which is know your party and give them the loot that works for your party, right? Yeah. And know the loot you're putting out there. Like that's yes. You asked the question, but that question answers itself. Like, how do you fill the dungeons with the loot that's fitting for the party? You sit down and identify the loot that is fitting for the party.
Pretty much. Or you homebrew something.
Yeah, or make something that works.
Yeah. Most of the stuff that you homebrew should have a very specific, tailored purpose for your party. Like there's a gap that they want to be filled, or there's something that they feel is lacking. Then you just make something fill in that gap.
You can also gear your party for the dungeon, which is another thing that people tend to like miss out on. You can have the last few quests rewards set up the party to be more successful in the dungeon, or in the magic shop that they frequent there could be items that will help with this dungeon. So you can also kind of precursor a little bit. Don't play your cards too soon, don't give away what you're getting, but you can give them, it feels really good to a player when they purchased an item with their hard-earned gold and that item comes into play defeating the BBEG in a dungeon or helping them tackle something or bypass an issue. You know what I mean? So consider that. Think of those sorts of things too. Another thing along those lines is a lot of the time if you have a big dungeon with lots of floors, on the first floor maybe there's loot to help them get further into the dungeon, right? Maybe there's
or like hints of loot further down that keep them motivated to go down.
Oh yeah.
Because the biggest problem with dungeons is how 5e handles short rests and long rests, and how important the party thinks those are.
Yeah,
that's my biggest issue. Is give them a timetable so they don't take rests, and then give them reasons to be afraid to take rests, even with that timetable.
Patrols are my favorite.
Yeah.
Oh, you want to take a rest? Okay, you're gonna probably get jumped.
Don't even tell them they might. Just say you will get attacked.
Yeah.
I'm not going to let this happen.
Yeah. Warlocks every time. Short rest? Short rest? Sure. I know because everybody's done that to me and I've done it to people all the time. I don't fault them that. That's not a bad thing. It's just you have to, like, as a DM a lot of the time, and Sean's right, like, it is very annoying. Also, though, like, measure a rest can be a reward. Like, oh, you cleared this specific thing? And now it seems like you might have a chance to catch your breath because of that.
Mm-hmm.
Like if they go off the beaten path and like defeat this big group of enemies, and they found like this little nook that they can kind of nestle into and take a break, that a short rest is a reward for that, and it helps them get further too. So all kinds of ways to tackle dungeons, which we can go into much greater depth when we make one. But that's a really good question, Tanner. Thank you, my friend. Yeah. Hey, Sean.
Hey.
If people had awesome questions like Tanner had today, where would they send them?
Well, I believe they would send us to either at the Lore Dump on Instagram and Twitter, or loredumpquestions@gmail.com if they had any sort of questions they would like us to answer.
Love it. Beautiful, magnificent, and wonderful.
Yeah, bud?
Yeah.
Cool.
It really is. Yeah.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is getting weird.
It is. Hey. Boo-ba-doo boop. Boo-ba-doo boop. Oh, whoa. Hey. Good.
The show's over.
Okay. Oh my god, you feral nightmare man.
I'll never let you leave.
Forever.
I'm done.